Whata?
And g'day viewers.
I'm Janet.
And I'm Michael. And this week's episode of About is about the superpower of no.
The word no, two little letters that when communicated pack a powerful punch. But the thing is, we don't like no.
And we're also often dissuaded from saying no. The thing is, there is actually a superpower in no.
So if you want to learn more about this amazing superpower, head over to our podcast. Whata?
And g'day.
I'm Janet.
And I'm Michael. And welcome to this week's episode about the superpower of no.
The word no, two little letters that when communicated pack a powerful punch. No is one of the first words we learn, probably because it's heard so often as our parents and carers guide us through infancy and childhood, keeping us safe and teaching us about parameters and avoiding the perils that undoubtedly come up in life. But the thing is, we don't like no. Mm-hmm. And we're also often dissuaded from saying no as a toddler, and we feel the negative effects of reactions when we say it. So naturally, we start to gravitate to yes as we grow. And as little people, we are encouraged to aim to please. It's taught that saying no can be rude or disrespectful, which leads to the problem that the easiest thing in the world is to say yes.
Oh, it sure is sometimes, isn't it?
Think about it. How many times have you said yes to something and then immediately regretted it? Yes, It's in our nature. Most of us want to be nice. We want to be helpful, but it doesn't always serve us, does it?
No. And on the other hand, no can have a big impact on your relationship with others and with yourself. Too much no, and you can isolate yourself, creating a negative persona and miss out on opportunities. Too little no, and you might miss out on key priorities, overbook your schedule, and bring on way too much stress in the process. So you really need to find that balance between yes and no. It's the key. But that equilibrium can only exist if you're able to see both the positive and negative sides of saying no. So it's easy to see the downside of saying no, right? It might hurt other people's feelings. It might create distance between you and your loved ones. It might even leave you feeling guilty or regretful. It might limit your opportunities. But there's much more to no than just negativity. Saying no can actually have a very positive influence on your life. And one of my favourite quotes, which I use all the time, is from Steve Jobs. And I use it in a variety of situations. So Steve was once asked what he was most proud of, Jan. And interestingly, you know what he said? It wasn't the creation of the iMac or the MacBook or the iPod or the iPad or the iPhone. What do you think it was?
Well, he had a lot to be proud of, but I think from memory that he was most proud of all the things that he said no to.
100%. All the things that he said no to. So this kept him laser focused on his strategy and his plans and kept him from being distracted by all the shiny new ideas being presented to him that would have moved him away from his priorities. And, it is really easy to say yes to so many things and then you regret saying yes. Think about it. How many times in the past have you said yes to something knowing all well that you can't deliver it or you don't have the bandwidth or it's just going to put massive stress on you? Now, it's not the same as deflecting, when people say, oh, that's not my job, you know what I mean? But what it is, it's truly being strong and saying no for all the right reasons.
There's so much more to know than just negativity. Saying no can actually have a really positive influence on your life. Saying no requires you to have a strong sense of self. And remember, if those around you are offended when you say it, it's their insecurity, not yours. Some of the reasons that no is a superpower and it'll lead you to better outcomes in interactions with others. Saying no requires bravery and self-discipline, and in the end, it'll help your emotional well-being. It shows others that you value your time, as this is one resource that we have a finite amount of. And when you remind yourself how valuable your time is, you're less likely to hesitate when it comes to saying no to something you really don't want to do. But no can be difficult to say without feeling that you always have to validate with a lengthy reason. Instead of no, you say, I'll think about it, or I'm unsure, or maybe later. Come on, we've all done this at one point or another. This leaves the door wide open. These phrases just confuse the person asking so that they think, is that a yes or a no? I can't believe lately too, when you receive an invite to an event, particularly on social media, and there's a maybe button. Mate, it screams of hedging your bets.
What the hell is a maybe button?
It's not like people are requesting for expressions of interest. They're brave up and either say yes or no. You've got to respect their time and their planning ability and consider each time you say no without justification or explanation to be a brave act. And it's an act of self-respect.
Yep. So rather than immediately responding to a question or a request, take the time to ask yourself, have I the time or the bandwidth to do this? Or what do I really want? What are my priorities? Although sometimes for various reasons we have to do things, and that's, let's take that, as sometimes we just actually have to do things that we don't want to do. But that's a completely different discussion. If you find yourself constantly saying yes, even when you don't want to, you need to stop it and think of your needs and your situation. And speaking of stop it, there's a great comedy YouTube video called Stop It with Bob Newhart, which demonstrates it. It takes a really lighthearted look at those two words, stop it.
Now, on the other hand, what do you do when you meet someone who won't take no for an answer?
Oh, God, yeah.
They'll beg you and urge and cajole. They make you feel guilty, come up with all kinds of mind games and creative solutions to make you say yes. When you run into those won't take no folks, our advice is to hold your ground. They'll get the message and maybe take away from it that sometimes over persistence leads to pissing off people. So saying something along the lines of, I'd like to be able to help you here, but unfortunately I can't. I've got other priorities. I don't have any extra time, and just leave it there. Another problem we often face is saying yes to customers or clients.
Oh, absolutely. Look, I share a few stories here. You know the old adage, the customer is always right? Well, that's not correct, is it? Not always correct. And in an effort to try and do all the things that we can for them, we set ourselves up to fail in many situations. And a great example of this is in recent times in one of Australia's greatest labour short markets. We've seen super low unemployment post the pandemic, and candidates have a raft of choices at their disposal. And businesses are getting desperate. So we get so many new customers calling in saying they need help in filling all these roles that they haven't been able to fill for quite some time. And now it's becoming critical to them. And they say they've had other agencies working on them with no luck, and they've heard that we're doing a great job in the marketplace. Now, the easiest thing in the world would be to say, yes, yeah, sure, we'll help you. Hey, it's a new client. It's more revenue. It's a chance to build a new relationship, a long-term client potentially. All great things, right? So, hey, let's just jump in and say yes.
Well, I say no. And so have you. It's the wrong answer. And Michael's going to share how powerful the no philosophy is here.
So, firstly, let's have a look at all the reasons they might be struggling. Is it the pay rate? Is it the conditions? The location of the office? The culture, which is a really big one. The management team, their brand, their policies, their employee value proposition, etc., etc. There's so many different things to look at which impacts your ability to attract talent. Now, couple this with, we wanted to support our long-term loyal clients through this tough time. So our approach was along the lines of, we would love to help you. However, at this stage, our long-term loyal clients, who we've been working closely with on getting a great value proposition and getting it right to attract the best talent, well, they're taking priority for us. So unfortunately, we won't be able to help you at this stage.
And that put you guys really in a controlling position. It showed you weren't desperate for work.
Absolutely.
This approach was really powerful, and we've seen numerous new clients clamouring to become loyal customers so that they get premium service in all sorts of industries. The easy thing would have been to say yes, fail, and just become another one of the pack.
Yeah, so you've got to do it differently.
Saying no is the sharpest tool you have for distancing yourself from negative people or situations. So think about how valuable your time is, and you'll be less likely to hesitate when you say no to something you really don't want to do.
No.
Here's a quick 4-point checklist to help you decide when saying no is the way to go. 1, do I have time, energy, and finance for this right now? 2, is this something I really want to do? 3, is it going to value add to my life? And number 4, pretty critical, is this aligned with my values? Time to pause, reflect, sum it up, and then give him a powerful no.
Yes.
And saying no is interesting because sometimes saying no is saying yes, except, and here's a big exception, except where consent is involved. No always means no. Mm-hmm. When it comes to giving a person consent to any form of contact, physical or emotional. No is no. There's no buts about it. We need to ensure we teach our children this really valuable truth.
Yep. But in other cases, though, not consent related, of course, when you say no to one opportunity, remember, it can open a door to another. And it's empowering to think about it like that. There are so many sliding door moments, and they happen when you say no to something. So you've got a recent example of that one.
I have. We were in Belfast a couple of months back at the Titanic Museum. Many stories there on the walls. It's a brilliant display if you ever get to go. It's incredibly set up. There was a story about a young guy who'd boarded the ship for just the first 2 short legs of the journey, like Southampton to Cherbourg. He'd been presented this ticket as a gift from his employer. He was travelling in first class and met a wealthy couple who offered to pay his passage on to New York. A pretty generous offer.
First class as well. Nice.
An offer almost too good to refuse. However, he checked in with his employer via telegram and was told a resolute no, get off that ship. A no that allowed him to go on and live life.
That was a pretty good no.
That's a pretty good no.
So it serves as a great reminder that no can result in a massive yes to better paths. And it's interesting, as I said before, with the job market at the moment, which is going ballistic with people being offered significant swags of cash and promises to jump ships and companies. Employee loyalty appears to be at an all-time low, and it's lost in the fog of the post-pandemic climate, and people are restless and seeking greener pastures.
Make sure that if you're being courted or hunted for another position, that you are intrinsically ready to go. So often we see that the grass is not only not greener, but it's a bed of thorns. But we're going to cover that in detail in another podcast. So weigh up Titanic type life decisions, and you'll find that the no response can serve your life as a superpower. I'm going to finish with this thought. Freedom isn't the ability to say yes. It's the ability to say no. Until next time, love and blessings.
See ya.
Thanks for watching this video, and we hope that you got a lot out of it. We would love it, be grateful and appreciative if you would take the time to like this video, comment if you feel inclined, and share with any friends that you think would benefit from this. We are constantly creating new great content, so also remember to subscribe so you don't miss out on any of the awesome material that we have coming up. See you soon.